A pleasant morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome, dear Big History professors, educators, Big History students, Big History enthusiasts all over the world. It is truly an honor to be here. What you will witness today is a presentation inspired by a phenomenal course offering that can change the way we see things. You'd probably say it's such a brave statement, okay? But what you will see today are snippets of that claim. I know that time is an essential element and in this webinar, so let me share the rest of the slides we have prepared for today. I believe that the true test and the best evidence as to how effective the teaching learning process is will fall greatly on the results of the course activities, not to mention the personal satisfaction a student and teacher gain in this whole big history experience. Let me begin by sharing two student realizations. I should have known big history while I was in grade school, while another student said, chemistry used to be a hated subject, but big history made me realize that it's easy after all because it is related to my existence. Those realizations were shared because big history attempts to unravel the disciplines we usually take for granted. I believe it is one powerful tool. Indeed, everything is connected. The same way we are here witnessing this event despite our different backgrounds, our different expertise, our different interests. In big history, everything is connected. In fact, more than being connected, we are interconnected, interdependent, interwoven, intertwined. Between what was and what will be, I think that is the best position to be at. Personally, I see, through big history, how we play out our role as spectators in the here and now of what transpired and what will unfold, but with a chance of changing or altering them for the better. You'd probably ask, why do we do all of these? Well, it is because we are all about students. It is our quality policy. It is our education philosophy. It is our daily mantra. In fact, we owe it as well to this great man who introduced big history to Holy Angel University, to the whole of the Philippines, Dr. Luis Maria R. Calindo. Through his vision, we hope to mold Angelites as big historians, faithful to their Catholic beliefs, able to respond to the complex world. Let me share this with you. Sidney J. Harris said, and I quote, "The whole purpose of education is to turn mirrors into windows. Mirrors reflect an image of the self. It may focus on the mundane, superficial aspects at times. Well, I'm not saying it is altogether useless because many are convinced that the best assessment begins with the self. But if the intent is to merely focus on me and myself, we might fall prey into dwelling on the microcosm, a very minute part of the entire picture. So instead, I suggest that we look out into the many windows and the many possibilities of reality. The windows then can represent a whole new paradigm or perspective we thought never existed. A whole new picture of reality or truth, hopefully a bright and delightful window for awakenings that will prod us to act and to do something, in fact, anything towards change, one that transforms and inspires. With that being said, what awaits our Angelites as they learn and journey with and through big history? May I borrow Big History's threshold card by presenting to you Holy Angel University's threshold card of envision results. What are our ingredients? Probably a unique framework anchored on our mission and vision, along with a very good grasp of big history concepts. They might appear as if they are diverse, but in reality, with the Goldilocks conditions of merely employing a mirror image to a Windows paradigm, because we are fully aware that this is an ever-changing landscape, we are sure that we'd be able to come up with a new complexity. And that is, Angelites or students, even our graduates who are fully cognizant, competent, just, conscientious, compassionate individuals. Are we getting there? That is the question I should ask. Well, I think so. I believe we are through these students' reflections. With pride and deep admiration, I introduce to you a collection of insights entitled San Guillermo Church and the Filipino Life, Faith and Filipino Resiliency, to be presented by our first ever international student presenters from Holy Angel University, starting off with Chandrel David, Trisha Llanos, Jasmine Rose Manansala, Snaira Nicole Ann Torres, John Aaron Saripe, and the team leader, Nixon C. Kayanan. Friends, a virtual applause for our student presenters, Laus Deo Semper.
What is faith? In a world of religious dominance and uncertainty, most have been taught that faith is something that cannot be perceived through the senses, that it is a concept of complete trust, acceptance, and belief in a transcendental God, where the only proof that one requires is the one that can solely emerge from the inside. However, for the people of the town of Bacolor, their history of remaining evangelical victors despite infernal circumstances begs for a different narrative. As for them, faith, while ultimately an extension of a person's soul and convictions, could also be a 446-year-old church that defied the ruins of a now slumbering volcano.
The San Guillermo Parish Church, a site notable for having half its structure buried underneath basaltic soils, is a religious infrastructure located in Kabambangan, Bacolor, Pampanga. With its construction attributed to Augustinian friars in 1576, 11 years into Spanish incursion, it has been speculated that the land where the church is situated is a property of Don Guillermo Manabat, a land proprietor and the unofficial founder of the town.
The church's design is heavily reminiscent of Baroque architecture, with its emphasis on a central nave, dome-like ceilings, and intricate details that give the hint of opulence, which, if seen in real life, commands one's complete attention. The main entrance, which used to be a quarter-loaf window before the eruptions of Mount Pinatubo, features a carved crucifix with a sculpture at its center depicting the likeness of Jesus Christ, as well as the Latin inscription Rex Regium et Dominus Dominorum, or in English, King of Kings and Lord of Lords, a quote fitting for a church that refuses to fall.
The church has gone through many disasters, but it had been severely destroyed by an intensity 9 earthquake that occurred in 1880 and had to be rebuilt because of the acute damages. Unfortunately, it was later destroyed again in the year 1991 due to the devastating lahar flow caused by the eruption of Mount Pinatubo, which caused the fatalities of more than 800 people and approximately $700 million in damage. The church was originally 12 meters high, but due to the lahar from the eruption, we can now only see half the height of the church facade. Despite the fact that the church was already buried in half, the townsfolk of Bacolor chose to still attend through the upper windows. This practice has been existent for the past 28 years since Mount Pinatubo erupted and altered their lives in ways they could ever imagine. The locality chose to preserve the current state of the church as it signifies their strong standing faith in terms of hardships and their undying spirit to glorify the Divine Providence for His sustenance to them. Due to its unique history and appearance after the eruption, the San Guillermo Church is now known by the title of Sunken Church of Bacolor.
In churches, Filipinos are offered a sacramental refuge where they can band together as a community. It is here where they find companions, friends, or strangers who most often than not are more than willing to share their wisdom with those who remain with thousands of questions. or simply to provide comfort to those who need it.
Yung Panginoon, nararamdaman mo nakikinig siya sa iyo sa pamamagitan ng mga taong nakakasalamuha mo. And yung mga like mga nagsiserve din dito, natuturing ko sila bilang mga kaibigan, gano'n. Sila yung kasama mo, nakakapitan mo pag malungkot ka, gano'n. No? Kasi
In retrospect, it gives people the comfort in knowing that in times of difficulties, the church, together with their faith, will always be there to provide an answer. A derivation consistent with the account of a local elderly who visits the parish every day to thank his God for guiding him with his flights.
Actually, yun, matamahan kami ng lahar. Siyempre, wala ka siguradong tatawagin kung hindi ang Panginoon pagka nasa dingit ka ng kamatayan eh.
While it is debatable whether who should be attributed responsible for the resolution of these problems, one thing is evident. Whether it is God or it is a result of self-fulfillment, this man's faith played a significant role in overcoming his life's hurdles, to the extent that he's willing to allocate a portion of his day to visit the half-buried church to offer gratitude. Based on him, when one's bargaining with death, it is fate that determines which is the better bargainer, which is why the restoration of the church was so meaningful to him, because it sits as a reminder that just like San Guillermo Church, he once braved death and emerged a victor.
In addition, aside from its spiritual implications, the church, as a historical site, also contributes monetary value to the community. With tourists coming in every day in buses to see this sunken church, residents, such as this local salesman, are allowed to acknowledge the church not just as a house of worship, but also as an integral component in their sustenance.
Kaya ako dito dumadayo ko rito. Dito kasi kumikita ako ng konti kahit pambili ang bigas sa mga kapatid ko, mga pamilya ko. Kaya po dito ko nagtitinda, kuya.
According to him, while the number of visitors doesn't necessarily always translate to sales, as the breadwinner of his family, losing faith is something that he cannot afford, which is where the religious aspect of the church become convenient. In addition to being his source of income, by being at the church ultimately through his faith and praying that better days will come, he is permitted to hope and optimism.
The faith and resilience of the people are not directly linked or tied to the physical structure of the church or its mere existence as a religious institution, but to what it represents.
Kasi sabi nga ng parish priest namin dito, it's not about the structure, it's about the people. Kasi yun yung nagiging rason ng simbahan, yung mga tao, hindi itong structure na to. So, dito sa San Guillermo, napakasaya ng mga tao. Talagang nakikita mo na yung Panginoon, dinadala nila sa pamamagitan ng mga kilos nila, ng mga ginagawa nila sa kapwa nila.
In case another catastrophic event occurs in the future that will result in the destruction of the church, do you think will the fate of the Kapampangans will be affected too, or taga-Bacolor Pampanga?
Well, if the church will be like masisira, gano'n?
Yes.
And I believe, hindi. Siguro magkakaroon ng sadness, kalungkutan, siyempre, because it's a catastrophic event. But the people will rebuild not the original foundation, maybe not the original structure, but they will surely build it or rebuild it.
However, the church does contribute to the faith of the people with its significance to the strength they draw from the fact that this church was able to withstand calamities, mirroring hope and belief that they can also do so, through which this faith made them resilient.
Bacolor, tatabunan niya ng hanggang 3, kung yung nagkakamali, 2 to 3 story na kapal ng lahat. Pero nakatayo pa din. Ganun mga taga-Bacolor. Saan ba sila napunta? Nasa San Fernando na, nasa Bulacan, nasa Mabalacat, yung iba, sa Santa Lucia Resettlement, Bulacan Resettlement, Northern Resettlement, but still they are thriving. They find ways, they adapt. No? Ganon din yung nangyari sa simbahan. these struggles, the important thing is it stands. And that is the spirit of the people of Bacolor. Saan sila mapunta? Kahit na nasa resettlement, they will find a way to try to live.
Talking about resilience in the Philippines is always tied with faith because Filipinos often believe that they will get through all life's challenges through the sustenance of the Divine Providence.
Kasi tayo mga Pilipino, alam natin na kahit anong mangyari, nandyan ang Panginoon. Nandyan siya sa likod natin, no? Like, for example, dito sa Bacolor, hindi natin maaasahan na babalik sa ganitong kasigla ulit yung parokya. Isipin natin, itong dinadaanan natin ngayon, bintana na siya sa taas. No? So, napakagaling na mag-work ng Panginoon dito sa simbahan. Yung akala mong wala na, yung parang meron pa na tingnan niyo yung retablo, biglang nabuhay pa na yung kita na lang dyan talaga, yung sa taas. Pero nilipat siya sa doon para mabuhay siya ulit. And ngayon, yung simbahan, maraming ulit na bibinyagan dito, marami nang kinakasal dito. Hindi natigil yung pananampalataya dito sa Bacolor. Yun yung napakaganda.
The withstanding Church of Bacolor, or the San Guillermo Church as we know it, is a symbolic representation of the undying faith and resilience of the citizens of Bacolor and all Filipinos. It speaks out of resilience because it mirrors what the citizens have gone through. Like the church, they have conquered different kinds of disasters. It left scars and caused them damage and despair. But they remained steadfast and turned the aftermath of the disaster into something symbolic and beautiful. They didn't fully bury their disastrous past, which was ironic because the church was literally buried half instead. They let the church stay buried and decided to beautify and slightly modify its appearance, preserving the image of what it went through. This shows how significant the role churches plays in the lives of many Filipinos, like how San Guillermo catered its citizens with faith and hope. Religious institutions all over the country serves as a chain that binds Filipino people into recovery after a calamity, whether it being a shelter that shields people away from danger and embraces away fear, or a catalyst of good action, a very powerful force that unites Filipinos to help and take action. It can be concluded that religious institutions, especially churches, are at the very core of the Filipino resiliency.
Based on the question asked to the interviewees by the researchers, it all came down to a common answer. San Guillermo Church can be seen as a physical manifestation of Filipino faith by showing that despite many unfortunate events that fell on the church, it stood its ground with pride. Similarly, Kapampangans or Filipinos in general are people who are proud of who they are with the colorful festivities they have that reflect their rich culture and unique traditions despite the hardships they face. Based on the answers the researchers got, it was agreed that the church was the structural embodiment of its people. The San Guillermo Church would provide shelter to those in need. Similarly, Filipinos are renowned for their remarkable hospitality. The church faced many challenges in its 350 years of history. With the Spanish encounter of the Filipinos and the eruption of Mount Pinatubo that it witnessed, the church did not only become a historical structure, but also became the symbol of hope for the Kapampangans. Through their bayanihan, the town regains its active and lively community as they start to rebuild their lives together with the restoration of the church. San Guillermo Parish became the physical manifestation of Kapampangan faith because it shares all the burdens and challenges that the people of Bacolor suffer, and it also became the proof that Bacolor continues to prosper despite the challenges it encounters.
In a country that faces many forms of natural disasters, as it is along the Pacific Typhoon Belt, just what makes the Filipino people have a strong faith in a supreme creator and what makes them resilient? Since the colonial period of the country, the church and the people were inseparable, thus making religion play a predominant role in the administration of the country. Although now being consisted of followers from many religions that follow their own traditions, the Philippines remains to be the first and only country in Asia where Catholicism is the majority religion. A study of Philippine church history may reveal that while there is a solid basis to brand the church as conservative in certain areas, there were critical moments in history where the church played a progressive role in the formation of the Philippine nation, especially during the Spanish colonial period. There are always on the quest to fulfilling the economic and material pursuits in today's world. Religion is understood to influence subjective well-being in various ways, such as that the religious community gives people a sense of belonging and provides an important source of social support, where religion gives people's lives meaning and purpose. And finally, religion encourages people to lead a healthier lifestyle. With the continuous occurrence of natural tragedies, religious influence is seen as vital and linked to such events. Religious institutions instigate and command significance in the lives of an immense amount of people all over the world, and recovery and resilience have become part of their role. With its influence to encourage moral action and increase the extent of pluralism, whilst a conflict or calamity, it binds people for recuperation. Religious institutions provide a roadmap for resilience for communities, especially those that might find themselves facing repeated disaster risk. In the case of San Guillermo Church, the sunken yet thriving institute became the pole of hope to its people. It became the figure that sheds and instills a strong belief for many, being also the figure to withstand a calamity. And where a religious institution thrives, faith is actively practiced. Faith is a crucial element for resilience, and resilience is enabled through having faith. Thus, the foundation of both is religious beliefs and activities exercised in religious institutions, which states its relevant impact on both and their relation. In a crisis, it is faith that sustains people. In light of a predicament, people light a candle instead of cursing darkness and obscurity because of faith. And by definition, it requires a sincere belief in someone or something, and something that, while so abstract, can become very real when witnessed firsthand. Symbols, especially religious-related ones, facilitate honor belief of faith, and the San Guillermo Church, as a religious institution, enables people to intensify their tap onto that, as a standing figure and symbol of surrounding calamities. People look for something concrete to hold onto, and witnessing the survival of the church portrays a message that where there is a strong belief, we are saved. While in its role in building resilience, faith may be reinforced as crisis tests devotees. Mount Pinatubo eruption was the catastrophic in place, but because Filipinos believe God is above all the tragedy and devastation, they become resilient. Now, spiritual resilience is putting a positive outlook in the face of adversity. Together with faith, they seek strength through higher power to get through a tough situation. Religious institutions also partake in the aftermath of crisis as a place of long-term healing.
Many may argue that religion and science aren't supposed to be coherent because to believe in one must be neglectful of certain truths and ideologies of the other. Through the existence of big history, we get to see a detailed historical narrative of human history covering where it all started, the Big Bang, and stretching it forwards to where we are now and where is the human race bound to be. There goes the scientific part. So what makes it unique other than the science course that is being taught in primary school? It inculcates the origin of the universe, paving its way to the modern world through human nature and shared experiences. Human nature and shared experiences are where the talk about faith comes in. Faith is incorporated in big history as it aims to hone the students' intellect grounding through their morals and values to unite the modern fragmented world. While faith in big history plays a pivotal role, it was the atom that burst into a vast amount of information to unfold. In a body, it is the head and the heart, reason, big history or science, and the faith. It does not contradict each other, but rather have a harmonious relationship. Big history is humanity's first and only creation story, derived from global collective learning. While secular, it nevertheless reveals a way of thinking and speaking about God that is undeniably and inescapably real.
David Christian introduced big history as the modern version of the origin stories that we are already taught, but further expounds on the questions that we are left to ponder. It starts with the Big Bang, which was even first proposed by Catholic priest Monsignor George Lemata. To wonder into that reason must be founded by an existing belief. However, the theory now implies that the beginning is definite, which leaves implications and leads to physical reasons. Science inarguably wants to quantize what is abstract, to reason using evidence. However, we will not be able to answer all questions, but can only be justified by the absolute existence of our ultimate creator. Kant once said, "I have therefore found that I have to deny knowledge in order to make room for faith." Like a riddle, it is hard to extract its real meaning. Good thing Tony Jack then explained an interpretation from the statement saying that Kant did separate the two, but meant that not everything can be justified or answered by reason. That science alone cannot answer everything, but also by morals, which is driven by the force of belief and faith in God. Kant meant that denying knowledge is to debunk questions on concretizing the concept of Him, which is where then faith perseveres. Big history, although is composed of different lines of studies, embraces that none falls into an anti-faith course. Rather, its thresholds roots from faith, evident for each tribe with faith as its driving force.
Symbolism takes something that is usually concrete and associates or affixes it to something else in order to give it a new and more significant meaning. Students often use mnemonics to summarize and easily memorize a complex concept. These enact as symbols that allow the learners to easily visualize the topic associated with it. In line with our presentation, the Church acts similarly to mnemonics, a symbol that summarizes the broad idea of faith and history of how the people bounce back into a thriving community after a mishap. It is a standing figure that reminds them of their strong belief, hope, and resiliency. Liao Ti in the year 2010 stated that symbols represents collective memory, citing Aubax, the father of collective memory, who believed that the past is primarily remembered or known through symbolism, like Abraham Lincoln, who was the symbol of racial equality. Now, the San Guillermo Church, withstanding a calamity of the past and still thrives as a religious institution, became the symbol of hope and faith and then manifested resiliency to its people. According to Chen et al. In the year 2010, visual cues can be intertwined with experiences in the distant past. Their research mainly suggests that fragments of memories that happened way back can be stimulated and relived by visual cues or symbols. Goes to show that our study about the San Guillermo Church justifies their findings. As we get to see at the testimonies of the locals, they distinctly describe their experiences as they view the current structure of the San Guillermo Church. The church have seemed to mean various purposes for the locals. Some were reminded of how tragic the disaster was and were very keen of the details about the lahar flow and the flood.
Grabe ang lahar, kuya. Grabe ang naglahar ng Bacolor. Yan, pumutok yung night 91. Tapos naman, naglahar ng grabe nung night 95. Grabe ang lahar. hanggang dito po na ng Bacolor.
Hindi, mahirap yung pinagdaanan namin nung matabunan kami ng lahar dito. Halos sa lahat ng mga tao rito, nagkahiwa-hiwalay na.
Yun nga po yung mga sinabi sa amin ng iba. Napunta po ba kayo sa mga resettlement or Angeles?
Hindi ako pumunta sa resettlement. Lumipat lang kami sa kabilang barangay. Sa kapatid ng misis ko. Nung dumating yung mainit na lahar. Pagkatapos nung mga November, wala nang ulan, bumalik na ako sa atin. Yung bahay namin natabunan hanggang dito yan.
Some viewed the preserved church as a metaphorical representation of their strong faith that was strengthened through the years.
Ngayon po, nakita po namin na binibisita niyo to. Bakit po dito kayo bumibisita sa church na to?
Alam mo kasi, binibisita rin dahil kasi, yung tulong na hiningi ko sa Panginoon, halos binigay niya. Kaya ako, nagpapasalamat ako sa Kanya.
Some, including us, may not be alive and didn't have a first-hand experience of what had happened, but we have been able to visualize the past as generations before us have continuously passed down their stories and chose to preserve the legacy of the church. Needless to say, the church really served as a symbolical representation, or as Shen called it, a visual representation for certain experiences and emotions the locals have felt in the time of the disaster.
How do humans innovate? It is from looking at the past that humans learn how to improve the present. The knowledge that comes from history gives us the capability to innovate things for the betterment of the world. We accumulate innovations through each passing generation because of collective learning, a prominent human ability that makes us unique from other species, as according to the study of Baker in 2015. It is a reason why history plays a huge role in how the society is built today. Through innovations, humans learn methods on how to preserve a history that helps us understand the world. Two of these methods are transforming places into heritage sites and creating museums that people can see whenever they want to reminisce past events of the society.
The thing that makes Big History an exceptional course is that it entertains answers derived from boundless curiosities and trying to piece a cohesive narrative for the universe. Sure, there's always a need to abide by the rules of actuality, but other than that, one is permitted to explore the deepest corners of their mind in understanding the secrets of the cosmos. At Holy Angel University, while we remain compliant and respectful of the value of verifiable artifacts, as a Catholic school and a Catholic nation, it is inevitable for us to incorporate faith as a salient ingredient in discussing the past, the present, and the future of the world respective to our identities. After all, it is a significant constituent of the many Goldilocks conditions that shape what it means to be a Filipino. Consequently, in learning about big history, at least from our team's collective experience, most of our academic discussions tend to circle back to one narrative or question. In these thresholds, is there a place for our faith and our God? And most of the time, our answer is yes. For example, we learn about the big history or the Big Bang Theory as the generally accepted origin story of our universe, that a singularity expanded to infinite lengths, birthing the stars, the elements, the solar systems, etc. However, there remain one's questions that we deem essential to be answered. Who or what created that singularity? For some, they might postulate a theory using mathematical equations. Others might reason using scientific complexities, all of which are valid and frankly important that they're trying to find an answers through facts. But for us Filipinos, our faith asserts that the answer to that question could be attributable to the existence of a higher being. There's only so much that humanity can do, so much that we can discover. One lifetime will not be enough to answer all the mysteries of the world. We've often heard tales of brilliant people exhausting their lives in their pursuits of finding clarity, which admittedly can be inspiring. Our faith, whether it is theistic or not, allows Filipinos to progress and explore other facets of life which we may deem just as consequential as finding the answer to what created the singularity. By acknowledging the possibility that perhaps it is a divine providence that could provide enlightenment to some of humanity's greatest enigmas, we are given the chance not to be prisoners of our thirst for finding and proving gospels, ultimately allowing us to enjoy the now while making sure to also find the satisfaction that could bring the curious cat back to life. Our take on big history is unique because it lets us contextualize where we are in this vast universe and what we can contribute to it as Filipinos during our lifetime. Would we be passive stewards or drivers of force? Just like the San Guillermo Parish Church to its people, integrating faith makes a dialogue personal and permits us to retain our unique cultural identity while helping rewrite the grand narrative of our universe as told by those who had lived it, are currently experiencing it, and will soon be witnesses to its marvel.
Friends, ladies and gentlemen, again, another virtual applause for our student presenters from Holy Angel University. Thank you very much. Nixon, yes, you wish to say something. Go ahead, please.
Hello, everyone. To those who aren't able to start the presentation, I do apologize because we encountered with some problems, so we have to move to another Zoom link. So here's a little bit of summary. So for our paper, we wanted to substantiate the claims that in collective learning, symbols or tangible artifacts are necessary. Specifically, we wanted to prove that abstract concepts such as love, faith, or resilience can produce a significant impact, a real impact, one supported by a physical manifestation of some sort. For example, since Filipinos go through a lot of natural disasters, every year since we are in a Pacific typhoon belt, resilience is an attribute that we need to have to survive. Now we need to find ways on how we can further strengthen this resilience. This is where our study comes in. Our research proved that for resilience to remain strong, it needs physical evidence or at least a concrete symbol. The people of the town of Bacolor were able to stand back up to their feet because together with them was the church, which mirrored hope. Hope in the sense that whenever people look at the church, they are reminded that they were able to withstand almost certain death and emerge a winner. Or in Filipino, kapag nakita nila yung church, naaalala nila na kagaya nito, minsan nilang nalampasan ng isang napakalaking pagsubok sa buhay. By being reminded of what they went through, they are able to gain valuable knowledge on how can one remain resilient after a blueprint. Hence, San Guillermo Parish Church also being a blueprint of resilience for society. So that's a little bit of summary to those who weren't able to start, and to my teammates if they wish to add something.
In a sense, this journey makes us realize that San Guillermo Parish Church became the blueprint of Bacolor itself, as it reflects all the past events that the people of Bacolor had conquered, symbolizing Filipinos' faith, hope, and resiliency.
Other than Nixon and Jasmine, are there other presenters who would like to share their summary of the presentation? All right, I guess that's about it. I wish to apologize as well for the confusion. The links probably had cost you. Things like that happen in live presentations like this. Be assured that the initial parts of the presentation would be uploaded through the IBHA website. So we opted to come up with Plan B and created a new Zoom link so that we could accommodate all the others who have been waiting since 1:45. Also, I do not wish to dampen the spirits of these Angelites, big historian presenters. It's because they have been preparing for this for so long. In case you have questions to our presenters, comments probably, feel free to type in your questions or probably raise your hand so you can directly ask questions to our presenters here. By the way, let me just acknowledge the presence of our OIC President of Holy Angel University here in the Philippines, Sir Leopoldo and Valdez. Thank you very much, sir, for being here. It means a lot to our students. Thank you very much for being here, sir. Sir Leo, would you want to probably give a minute, probably 1 minute of a message you can share to our students here? Thank you, sir, for being here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's very interesting how they've incorporated various aspects of big history and concepts into this presentation, and how it always comes back to faith and beauty and resiliency. So there are very many things that came about from this presentation, which they had thought through carefully and incorporated all of what they've learned as well in the vast, I guess, 2 semesters regarding it. So congratulations to the group. Very well presented and very well organized as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sir Leo. You could probably see their smiles on their faces. This is a bonus for them. They've been asking me, would someone from HAU be witnessing this event? And I said, we invited many, so they'd see just how much you have prepared for this. Just to inform our participants for today, they were students, former students. They are second-year college students right now. They took up big history. We dubbed it as first-year experience. They took up Big History 1 and Big History 2 for the first and second semesters, respectively. In a sense, they would not be getting any numerical bonus for this. No grades or score, so to speak. But this is out of their passion and love for big history. And I believe for Holy Angel University in general. I can entertain questions right now if anyone would like to ask questions to our presenters. They are ready. Nobuo Tsujimura, thank you very much for being here as well. Hirofumi Katayama, our friends, big historians as well from Japan. Thank you for being here. Anyone who would like to ask questions? Yes, Nobuo, go ahead, please. Go ahead.
No, I have not question, but a comment, a very brief comment. And thank you so much, everyone, for preparing and holding this event. And I'm sorry that I could not watch the video, the former half of the video, but it looks very well made. And I guess it took many hours to make it. And that challenge itself is so great. And I'm so glad to see many able big historians and young big historians are now working for big history and humanity together. And so this webinar is especially focused on the church and the historical church of the Philippines. And you saw it through the lens of big history. So usually this kind of approach is called local big history, area-specific big history, or later big history, theme-specific big history. And both approaches are important because if students are asked to deal with the whole history of the universe, so that is 13.8 billion years, it is too vast and too long to deal with for a short time. But if we focus on a specific theme or area, and we can deal with it and using some aspects of big history. And when we focus on a specific area and theme in history, so we can see important aspects of big history in a more complex way.
Yes.
And that's a good point of a little or local big history. And another emphasis of today was put on faith. And especially on Christianity. And so big history, so all big historians believe in there are something everyone can share. So even though we have different cultures, traditions, nations, ethnicities, and faiths, there are something we can share and we can search for together. And in this sense, so it is very meaningful for you to how compatible a big history and your faith are. But a further learning or further searching maybe that, so how you can use big history or how can use your insight to coexist with other people with different faiths. And this is another important task, especially in the age of conflicts and division. But thank you so much. This is my very brief comment.
Thank you very much, Nabo. You've always been a huge supporter of big history here in the Philippines. Thank you very much. It's our students' way of relaying the story and this side of the universe, right? And we hope that it would be heard, because if we put all of this little big histories together, we'd be creating the entire puzzle, so to speak. Thank you very much. I think that's basically what I mentioned primarily in the presentation before they had the video, presented the video, that I draw forth inspiration from Sidney J. Harris's idea about what education is supposed to be, and that is to turn mirrors into windows, that instead of just looking at the self, this is who we are. The presentation does not intend to focus the spotlight on Filipinos alone, but trying to make the world see this is who we are, this is our story. It's worth listening to. And from there, we'd be able to let's not just focus on the mirrors, but probably come up with windows, because windows would represent different paradigms, realities, or truths. And from there, we'd be able to come up with awakenings that would prod us to act, to do something. As mentioned by the presentation a while ago, we are living in a very fragmented world, right? And through big history, I hope we could live up to that tagline that we usually use, and that is, we are all connected. Everything is connected in big history. Thank you again, Nobuo Tsujimura. Thank you very much. Other comments, questions? I can see one over here. Can I just read it, please? Filipinos pride themselves in their supposed resilience, rooted in their religious faith. Would this be helpful in a society that has become more populist and authoritarian, and consequently increasingly more oppressive? Is there anyone from the team who would like to answer this question? Let me repeat that. Filipinos pride themselves in their supposed resilience, rooted in their religious faith. Would this be helpful? Would resilience be helpful in a society that has become more populist and authoritarian, and consequently increasingly more oppressive. John Aaron, go ahead, please.
Yes, I do believe that it would be helpful because, as we have seen in the past as well, that many times for the history of Filipinos, that we have been oppressed by many countries, and we have also faced challenges before, and it is our own resiliency that keeps on striving to where we are now. And as we are about to face a new challenge with the recent elections, it would be better if we say that way, especially with faith also alongside resiliency, because one cannot strive without having its other hand, which is why we have two eyes, two hands, and two feet. It comes arms and arms with each other. And so, yeah, my point is that even if with an authoritarian setting, it will help.
All right, thank you very much for your answer, John Aaron. Anybody else from the group would like to share their 2 cents as well?
I would like to add something. I do, however, admit that, in our country, resilience is, I think, exploited to the extent that most of our officials tend to rely on this attribute of Filipinos that they no longer do anything to change or to introduce reforms in our system. They keep on using it as an excuse to allow inadequacies in our system. But I think we are forgetting that when one becomes resilient, for example, if after a disaster, we remain resilient, we choose to be strong, we also learn something. It's an aspect of collective learning. When you for you to learn something, you need to be resilient. You need to allow yourself to be able to move on, to learn from that event, and then gain something knowledgeable from it. So yes, I think it's still helpful in the sense that when we become resilient, we tend to remember things. So when we remember things, we know how to change. We are able to pinpoint the mistakes, or we're able to pinpoint the weaknesses. So in an oppressive government like this, so for example, using the previous movements as a reference, since we learned through the previous administration, we can see that the youth are now becoming more active in trying to introduce change to the Philippines. So their parents became resilient, and so they passed their knowledge to their so they keep on saying, we survived this time, so we have to make sure that this will not be repeated again. So it passes down to generation. And I know it may take a lot of time before we can really change the system, but through progress, through time, I'm sure we can get there. So we need to remain resilient, and of course, we also need to remember. So that's what I would like to add about that question, ma'am.
Thank you, Nixon. It's like you telling us there's a difference between being just resilient and being resilient along with you, understanding what the problems are, what the issues are, and trying to come up with a solution for all of those concerns, right? At times, resiliency is probably wrongly equated to us being settling for things which are mediocre. In Tagalog, we usually make use of the term uubra na yan, pwede na yan, pagtiyagaan na lang natin. All right, those are Filipino terms. At times, we wrongfully use it. But then, when we talk about resiliency, there is that spirit to fight against the tides, right? And do something, anything at all that would prod change. And that's basically what's supposed to be the bottom line. And as big historians, young as you are, I am glad that you are aware of all these things happening, all the aspects they mention in our society right now. That's a very good start. Being aware is a very good start, right? Thank you. Let me just read a comment here from Mr. Joel Regala, another big history professor from Holy Angel University, also one of the faculty members sent to the Dominican University in California, the first batch of faculty members sent to the US for further training. Very good presentation. Kudos to you, my dear students. If I may add, the resiliency of the Filipinos can also be connected with one of their creation stories, Threshold 1, the beginning. The malakas and maganda coming from a flexible bamboo. The one criticism of the bamboo is in it is hollow in the middle. One noted Filipino anthropologist, Dr. F. Landa Hocano, a former professor of Sir Regala, defended this by saying that the hollow represents the chi, or the inner energy of the Filipinos, which makes them resilient to any calamity. It's like resiliency flows in our blood. It's in our genes. it's our physiological makeup dictating that we are supposed to be resilient. That's basically what Sir Joel Regala wants to tell us. Are we correct in that interpretation, Mr. Regala? Thank you po for the
Yes, ma'am.
comment.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes,
Anything
ma'am.
you wish to add, sir? Thank you for the comment.
Very good presentation. Congrats to the students. Galing.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, Sir Regala. Are there other questions you wish to ask our presenters for this afternoon? Let me, yes, go ahead, Nobo. Anything you wish to say?
So there's one more thing I want to add.
Yes.
So recently, a new big history book, you can watch this. So Science, Religion, and Deep Time was just published. And this is fundamental book for rethinking the relation between science and religion. And so I greatly recommend you all to read it and examine it. And this volume is edited by Lowell Gustafson, the political scientist and the third president of the International Big History Association, and by Barry Ludwig, and he is working at Symbiosis International University in India, and very influential big historian in Asia, and by David Franks, the president of the International Big History Association. And so one of the basic stance of this book is, this book sees that so religions and big history, both religions and big history are ways to see the world, and they are related to how we perceive this world and how we perceive the problems of this world and how we cope with them. And so this was always the same from the ancient times to modern times. And so big history is no more than the latest and scientific mode of seeing the world and handling the problem of that world. And so in this sense, so with the depth of very long-term history and perspective from both sides, from science and different religions, so you must learn many things from this book. And that's my additional comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nobo. That's entitled Science, Religion, and Deep Time.
Yeah.
Am I correct, Nobo? One of the books we usually talk about in most of our meetings. All right, thank you very much. We would definitely take a peek into that beautiful, wonderful, brilliant work, right? Thank you very much. Other questions coming from our participants, our attendees here? Anything more you wish to say? Probably comments to our presenters. I can see that we have a lot of big history students enrolled currently for the first sem. They're taking up Big History 1. I hope this would serve as an inspiration for you to do the same. I hope that this students we have here, student presenters we have here, ignited the flame, the passion for you to continue this tradition, so to speak, so that in the years to come, you'd be able to present along with your other big history professors. Right? Questions, comments? I believe when everyone is silent, I hope that you are able to grasp and understand what these students prepared for a long, how many months did that take for you? Their exams are, they
2 months.
2 months, yes, 2 months. They would even go to the site itself, interview person. So this is something very personal for them. That's a reason why, again, before I probably end this in a few minutes, I wish to apologize again. You're probably confused with the Zoom links you sent to you. That's probably Filipino Resiliency working right now. All right, we have to do plan B. As mentioned, I do not want to dampen the spirits of our student presenters. Technical difficulties like that happen once in a while. We apologize for that. The good thing is we are here right now, able to listen to the presentation of this wonderful big historians and angelites. Dean Janet, our Dean of the School of Arts and Sciences, please go ahead, ma'am. Dean Janet Rodriguez.
Hello, can I be heard?
Yes, ma'am. Loud and clear.
Well, I'm with another event here. We're having the general orientation of our graduate school students. But you know what, my dear students, our dear students at HAU, our presenters, I was up late at night communicating, disseminating the program to all our management staff and our co-workers in the university. And so we're very happy that our university president was able to make it with us today. Thank you so much, sir, for witnessing this event. I was just really very proud for what you have accomplished today. I also thank Nabu for this opportunity. I said that this is an opportunity for our students not only to get immersed into an international conference such as these, but also to widen the perspectives as we try to continuously have a grasp of the meaning of our collective history as human beings in the context of the pandemic and all these crises happening in our life today. But I would always say that, you know, we just have to continue moving on forward in our life, continue dreaming. And our young people today present here, basically, you make that possible for all of us. You are our future. So continue to dream, continue to strive for excellence, so that in doing so, we may be able to efficiently serve our communities and the society at large. So you bring new meaning, new perspective in what education can actually do. You're here, my dear students, is not a mere accident. I say nothing happens in mere accident. You're here for a reason. So second year pa lang kayo, okay? You have a lot to do to move forward. And so congratulations, your initiative to bring forth meaning and new perspectives to young people today must not stop in this event. I also would like to give credits and commendation to our faculty member, Ms. Rebeth Hipolito, for initiating these milestone, I may say, because I hope that there would be succeeding events such as these to give our students more opportunities for an international experience such as this. To everyone, to our faculty members present and all the other students and the other Asian big historians, thank you for this learning opportunity. God bless everyone.
Thank you very much, Dean Janet. A double bonus for our students. It means a lot for them to see you here. More so, you're able to send a message to them as well. Thank you very much, po. I hope I am not forgetting anyone who is present here in our Zoom meeting room. May I just be allowed to share the last parts of my PowerPoint presentation, right? I just wish to thank the International Big History Association for this opportunity. In Tagalog, we usually say maraming salamat po. In Kapampangan, we usually say dakal pong salamat. Thank you very much for this opportunity. We hope to have webinars or presentations like this in the future with you. Holy Angel University as well. Dean Janet, the Dean of the School of Arts and Sciences. Dr. Albert G. Morales, the School of Business and Accountancy Dean. Our Chair, Social Sciences Department, Professor Cliff Ransom Wendell Bilalangan. The names you're seeing here are persons who, even if they're not teaching big history, offered help to us. Professor Elvira David from Psychology, Janet Reyes from Social Sciences, Brenda Subang from our PE Department, Ma'am Shay Abihay from Math, Joel Regala, Social Sciences, along with Dr. Ray Vitug, Professor Jetran Velasco, and the rest of the faculty members of the School of Arts and Sciences, especially to our OIC President, Leopoldo N. Valdez, and VPAA, Vice President for Academic Affairs, Dr. Albiag, for the support, continued support. I guess that would be all for this webinar for this afternoon. We were able to pull it through. Thank you very much. All glory and honor is supposed to be given back to God. Thank you to our student presenters, Nixon, John Aaron Saripe, Jasmine Rose Manansala, Snaira Nicole Ann, along with Trisha Llanos. Maraming salamat po. Dakal pong salamat. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much. I hope to see you soon in the future. I'll be ending the recording now.